Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out and getting a few questions in to our to a mayoral candidate. So open up, be freely about whatever you want to add, because this depends on the next 4 years or 8 years. So these are some of the things. Be mindful. Ask the things that you really want to know concerning your child, you, crime, education. Whatever you need to know, feel free to ask. And let's welcome one of our new mayoral candidates, Bob Wallace. Likewise.
Can you guys come a little bit closer?
Sure.
I know we can still social distance and still have a. Take it off a little bit. So let me just thank you all, first of all, for attending this morning. I know I've got a lot of busy days and a lot of busy events. I see the ladies back there working on their computers like that generation always does. And that's good. That's a good thing. Just wanted to stop by and say hello to you all. As Rennie mentioned to you, I'm running for mayor of Baltimore as an independent. And I want to thank Rennie and I don't see Mike here, but the other men and the men who are here. And I tell you something, the men that I met through Mike and Rennie, these are men we stay in Cherry Hill. If you got to go to war, who you want to go to war with, right? And Rennie and Mike and these men are men that I would go to war with, men that can stand tall, stand strong, even though things might get difficult. So I want to thank you, Rennie, and thank you all for your free support. We had a little incident yesterday, and I walked through the neighborhood, and I know Rennie and Bob are aware of it, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but it was a situation where, let's put it like this, my life and the life of my staff, my campaign staff, was put at risk, right? We're walking through a tough neighborhood, and what is indicative of the state of Baltimore today, what is indicative of the state of violence in our city today, what is indicative of the proliferation of firearms in our city today. And it hit me like, wow, now I'm running for mayor, and I got a whole staff around me, and if I can be exposed easily, imagine the other people in our great city, right, who don't have a staff around, who are not running for mayor, who are put at risk. And it made me even more committed to becoming your next mayor, because we have got to get this system, this sentiment of violence in our city under control. All of us are adults, and we're in a better position to process bad things that happen to us. But what about those babies sitting back there? What about those babies when they are confronted with this trauma every single day, and their young minds are unable and incapable of processing this? And think about what it does to their outlook, how they view themselves, and how they view their community, and how they view their future. This is a serious matter, folks. This is serious. And I don't think sometimes that people understand how serious this is for our city. So we've got to make the right decision here for our next leadership in Baltimore. Because I thought about what happened yesterday, and I thought about, wow, how many years or how many decades has it taken of inaction and no strategy, no resolution for Baltimore to get to this point? The leadership should be held responsible. And so, if we don't change the leadership, folks, I'm afraid we're going to just continue to be a continuation of what's been happening in our city for decades. That's why I'm running for mayor. Because it's clear to me, it's clear as the nose on my face, is that if we don't change the leadership model that we have in this city, we're going to keep fighting this battle over and over and over again. And I always say, and I make it clear, and I don't back up from this, I always say that crime and violence is a symptom. It's not the problem. It's a symptom. It's a symptom to a deeper problem. What is the root problem? What's the deeper problem? I'll tell you what it is. Two things. Number one is lack of economic opportunity for our young people, especially our young brothers, right? Lack of economic opportunity. And then two is failure of our education system to prepare our young people to capture the opportunities of the future where they can get a good job and make a decent income to take care of their families. That's what the real root cause is, okay? And the violence and the crime is just a symptom. Now, my right of center friends will say, well, Bob, that's an excuse. No, it's not an excuse. It's real. It's real. That does not negate me saying that there's a systemic issue around crime and violence, does not negate the urgency of the moment, which is to protect our people from violent crimes. And so my solution is twofold. It is to address the systemic issues of why these young men, primarily young men, some sisters, but primarily young men, 16 to 27 years of age, why they are making these bad choices that's putting them into the incarceration system in our city, in our state, in the country. This is not unique to Baltimore, but in our country. So there's a couple of issues, folks, that we have to address, I have to address as mayor, and which I will address. But I wanted to share with you some of my recent experiences, and then talk about how we can move forward. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head, but you should also add the systemic perpetuation of unemployment in the family.
Yes, sir.
Nobody showing them what work ethics are, and them gravitating to whatever they see in the street.
Yes, sir.
So you're right, but it's been going on so long that people see it as a norm.
Yes, sir. Amen, brother. It's intergenerational.
Right. That's right.
And I can tell you my experience in being raised in Cherry Hill, is I saw that too. But let's talk about what maybe your parents did, what my parents did, right, to help break that cycle. Because beloved, here's our challenge. We got to find a way to break the cycle. We got to break the cycle. Because the reality of our situation is real. I understand that poverty is real. I understand that racism is real. I understand, I get it that sexism is real. I understand that this friction between the police force and the community is real. It is real. But we've got to find a way to break the cycle. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the other day I watched your debate with Shannon, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I pulled out a couple points that I really wanted to target on you for as far as crime strategy.
Yes, ma'am.
And you stated that you need more organizers, more experts, state-level resources, the DEA and the ATA to get involved. Right, ATA, I'm
yes,
sorry,
ma'am.
to get involved
Yes,
to
ma'am.
start the cycle off once you get into office. Then I also heard you say that you don't approve of defunding the police.
That's correct.
Okay. My question is, you have Pennsylvania Avenue and North Avenue.
Yes, ma'am.
They are the two hot spots in the minority community, where you have a paddy wagon, 3 or 4 cars parked in the parking lot beside the paddy wagon. A police car parked here,
Yes,
a police car parked there, and you have 30 to 40 guys standing in front of multiple local small businesses,
Yes, ma'am.
all up and down Pennsylvania Avenue,
Yes, ma'am.
North Avenue. What are your strategies to clean that up? Because we have children,
Yes, ma'am.
women, innocent bystanders just getting shot
Yes,
on a daily basis. We have to have someone in office
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
going to clean up the streets.
Absolutely.
What is your strategy for that?
Absolutely. So those who didn't hear the question is that the violence that's impacting our city, and she mentioned North Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue as really hot spots, and she's correct. And that we have officer presence in those areas But it seems like that even that presence is not having an impact.
Right, but if you're gonna feel the funding, we're paying our tax money.
Yes, ma'am.
To have these officers patrol our community, where our
That's
kids
correct.
can't even go outside and play.
That's
Because you
correct.
have 25 drug dealers
Yep.
standing outside all day long.
Yes,
which
ma'am.
are babies.
Yes, ma'am.
What are we gonna do as citizens in a community to stop all that from happening? If you
Absolutely.
have no loitering and no trespassing
Signs.
sitting clearly right there.
Yes, ma'am.
And you can't even sit on your front porch and you get moved by the police officers
That's right.
sitting on your front, but they won't move them in front of inner city community where they at bodegas, Koreans, and all of those stores.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, so
I do. Yes, ma'am, I do.
we have to start there. That's where the problems.
Yes,
stems
ma'am, it
from.
does. It does. It does. So let me try to take your questions. You got a couple of them there, and I think you have touched upon the crux of the matter that we have to address.
Yes.
Okay. So let me take the defund the police matter first. Okay. I think you all know that we are under a consent decree with the courts. Are you guys aware of that? And there's certain things in that consent decree that we have to do according to the federal judge. So when we talk about defunding the police, that really is not an option right now because of the consent decree. So let me just take that off the table. Defunding the police, I think, is a bad term to use because I don't think people mean it the way it sounds. Because although some brothers do, I was over in East Baltimore, and I said, well, you don't really mean defund the police. He said, yeah, Brother Wallace, we do. I said, do you saying get rid of the police? He said, yes. I said, well, how are we going to have public safety? He said, we'll do it ourselves.
Right.
Right.
That was his mentality.
Right.
Okay. So some people
That's
do
what I
want to
say.
believe that you're going to defund the police. I think that most people believe when they say that. What they're saying is, Brother Wallace and any other leader, is there a better way that we can spend the funds for public safety and reduce them and get better results? Is there a better way to reimagine how we do public safety? Maybe we can spend more money on behavioral health or on homelessness or that kind of thing. And to that, I say yes. When I'm mayor, we're going to have that rethinking. Because the fact of the matter is, right now in Baltimore City, 44% of our budget goes towards public safety. You guys aware of that? We're the only jurisdiction in this state that spends that percent of their annual budget on public safety. And I say to people, that's unsustainable. We can't keep that up forever, folks. And so you're right, man. We're going to reimagine how we do that. Now, let's get to the violence. Let's get to the open drug markets and the violence because we experienced it yesterday on a personal level, but I experienced it in my life. My wife, my lovely bride here, raise your hand. She's being very quiet. This is my bride.
Amen.
Almost 43 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We met in college, and she saw me, and it was love at first sight. Couldn't take her eyes off of me. You know I'm lying. You know I'm lying, right, brother? You know I'm lying. It was the other way around, brother. You know what I mean? I saw my eyes on her. Yeah. But we got 5 kids later and 8 grandkids, and I've been blessed with a good woman at my side.
I love it.
Yes, ma'am. So the issue of the violence. Here's where we are, folks. So the system of public safety and law enforcement is a complex one. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. So a crime is committed. The officer arrests, if they can find the person. The officer arrests. The state's attorney has to decide what to do with that. Once she makes her decision, then the court system has to take the situation and deal with it. And then either the person is found innocent or they go into the prison system. In Baltimore, here's what we have, folks. And I'm going to talk to you straight. The officers are saying, when they lock up some of these bad players and they put them into the system, that the way the system is set up now, folks, that these bad players are right back on the street. So for whatever reason, the state's attorney office is not prosecuting at that level. And so if you're not going to prosecute at that level, man, like for loitering, for open drug market, for these kinds of things, then the officer's hands are kind of tied. Like, gee, if I arrest this person, they're not going to be held accountable. So what are we doing? And so what happens, ma'am, is I think, and this is now I'm speaking anecdotally, what I see and observe. The officers are saying, man, what's the use? What's the use? So as mayor, what I have to do, ma'am, as your new mayor, is to figure out how we can get better coordination between the mayor, the police commissioner, the state's attorney's office, and the court system. Now, I will tell you this, ma'am, and I get in trouble when I say this, but because I'm never gonna lie to you. As your mayor, I'm not gonna lie to you. I do believe that we need to have we need to have mandatory sentencing when a person takes a gun and commits a gun crime, shoots somebody, or has an illegal use of a gun. I believe there should be mandatory sentencing for that. Now, I say that very carefully because as an African American man raised in the projects, I understand how this system has oppressed us for so long. I understand how the criminal justice system has not been our friend in the past. I get that. And as your mayor, I'm going to be really sensitive to that reality. However, as your mayor, my primary objective is keep you safe and to keep your babies safe.
Okay, so
yes, ma'am.
I did hear in your debate that you were want to keep Commissioner Harrison.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I was in between with that because I'm to the point where so we need and he already commissioner that's been in the last terms
yes,
have been not from here.
Yes, ma'am.
So we need somebody that, in my opinion, that from the city of Baltimore and knows what's going on in the city of Baltimore.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what we need instead of somebody else's plan. They work for that state.
Yes, ma'am.
Every state is different.
Yes, ma'am.
We move different. So I think that, and again, this is my opinion.
Please, yes, ma'am.
I think that needs to be overlooked.
Yes, ma'am.
Into where that we have our people here that's up in higher rank that deserve a chance to be a commissioner
yes,
here
ma'am.
for the state of Baltimore City.
Yes, ma'am. So let me tell you, so the question is, she said, and I agree with her, she said, Brother Wallace, there are men and women who are already in the Baltimore police system who are qualified to be commissioner, and that she feels, and I agree with her, will have a higher probability of being successful, not only because they have good crime fighting tactics, but they also understand Baltimore. And she's saying that Baltimore is a unique beast, and it is.
Right.
And she's right.
Right.
So let me tell you where I will give a part B to what you said, ma'am.
Okay.
And the reason why I say, as mayor, my plan right now is to hold on to Commissioner Harrison. In the last 5 years, in Baltimore's history, we've had 4 different police commissioners.
I know.
We've had 4. So what I'm saying to us, I'm saying to you, beloved, I'm saying, okay, all right. I mean, as an engineer and business person, I know that continuity and consistency matters. So what I'm suggesting is, okay, Commissioner Harrison will have been in the job about 2 years when I become mayor. So I will have 2 years of data to look at and say,
right.
How's this plan working out? What I'm suggesting, my plan is, let me give him a chance to show that this plan can work or it can't work. And here's my promise to you, sister. If I get to a point where I conclude that it ain't working, then my next move is to say, who is it, as you're suggesting, who is it in the Baltimore system who is qualified to be commissioner? And I got 2 of mine already, I know them, because I'm already talking to them. I got 2 men, they happen to be men, but if it's a sister, it'll be a sister too. Got 2 people I'm talking to already, right? And also, if I gotta get to that point, I'm gonna bring in men like Rennie and Rob and Mike and other men and women in this community who know the communities, who know the people, because I want them to be part of that conversation. I want them, and you too, man, if you have a desire.
Rennie, my brother, so I'm right.
Oh, Rennie, your brother? Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And Rennie also smart. I can see the intelligence part, right? But here's what I'm saying to you, sister. I'm saying I want people like Rennie and Rob and Mike and other and women like you to be part of the conversation. Say, look, we need a new commissioner. These are the folks I'm looking at. What do you think? What do you think of the qualities that we need to have as a commissioner in Baltimore City to make him or her successful, right? And I think in the past, the community's never had an opportunity to be part of that conversation. When I'm mayor, you will. Right. Because if I determine that Mr. Harrison is not the right fit, But here's the other thing too. He's got like a 4 or 5 year contract, right?
Okay.
So let's say,
Okay,
sister,
got you.
let's say I got rid of him when I got in, right? I still gotta pay him out
Yeah,
those 3
absolutely.
years.
So you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, all right, let's think through this. Let's think through this now. So I've met him a couple of times, ma'am. I've seen his plan. I do feel his plan can work with the right execution and the right resources. And so I'm prepared to give him a shot. But to your point, and I promise you this, if I get to a point where I feel, okay, it's not working, my next step is to look for a man or woman who is knowledgeable of public safety and crime fighting, who understands the Baltimore environment, and that those men and women will become my primary focuses if it fits. And I'm going to include people from the community, like you and your brother, and these other women here who will have a desire to have input, to help me as mayor say who is the best person now to lead our public safety effort, right? I'm open to doing that. That's a great question, ma'am. Yes, sir, please.
Good afternoon, how you doing?
I'm good, sir.
Just wanted to, first of all, I had a chance to meet you, I think it was Monday, the Ministers Conference.
Yes, sir.
I'm Kevin Daniels, the chair of Civic Action. We have 150 churches that, with an initiative going on throughout the city, and I was the lead researcher for the consent decree, the community engagement portion. I'm a professor at Morgan State University, and one of the things that we found in going across the 9 police districts and the 14 districts of the city, one of the things that we found, and we did not only surveys, but we did focus groups, and we developed about 4, in the conference, we developed about 4 initiatives under our plan, which is, of course, people felt that number 1 was public safety, in which you started to address. But then number 2, they felt strong about health, education, and workforce and economic development, including housing in Baltimore City. Now, I know we're scheduled to potentially meet again to talk to you about, you're looking into our initiative because we got it from the tenants and also the residents of Baltimore City. But any one of those, you already touched on the public safety and what you would do because people are definitely concerned, but also the workforce and economic development, which is inclusive of housing as well. But before I go on, I just want to acknowledge, I know there's some city people in the room, but I do want to acknowledge I came out of Poly as well. So I just want to acknowledge that you led the way, So I want to say that.
All right, that's enough.
Okay, all right. But again, if you could just speak to workforce and economic development.
Yes, sir.
And what your thoughts are.
Yes, sir. So as I said, I believe that lack of economic opportunity is one of the root causes of crime and violence. I believe that if brothers and sisters had opportunity to well-paying jobs where they could take care of their families, we would see a decrease in crime, a decrease in violence, a decrease in dysfunction. I do believe that. So what's my plan? Well, when you look at my plan, I'm running on a platform as mayor that is heavily based upon economic development. For the reason that we're talking about. I believe that, so in my first term as mayor, my goal is to create 100,000 jobs, right, for the city of Baltimore in my first term, and to attract at least $1 billion of new capital investment into our city. So those are my plans. How are we going to do that? We're going to do it through what I call the Nehemiah plan. The Nehemiah plan. Nehemiah plan says what we do as a city, when I'm mayor, is we're going to break up the city into neighborhood economic development zones. And why is that important? In the past, when we've done economic development, we've done it for the entire city as a whole. What I have learned in my life as an entrepreneur and as a candidate is that as we walk through the neighborhoods around Baltimore City, what I recognize is every neighborhood is like its own place. It has different culture, different expectations, different kinds of people. So the plan is, okay, let us develop our economic development strategy on a neighborhood level. Because, for example, a plan for Cherry Hill may be a different plan than for Emerson Village, or from Middle Street, or from Charles Village, right? Because they're different. So the idea is break it down in a granular way. You break down the economic development strategy in a granular way that it touches neighborhoods. Then, with the $1 billion of new investment, we're going to bring in our first wave of initiative and building is to make sure that every zone, every economic development zone has the basics covered. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm talking about food, talking about shelter, talking about clothing, talking about community technology centers. So the idea, the vision is that every economic development zone in the city of Baltimore would have a food store. Do you know there are many neighborhoods who don't have food stores?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, you go to you
and they shut them down.
Yes, ma'am.
Every week.
Every
so
week.
I go to East Baltimore.
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
They shut these markets down. These senior citizens
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
have nowhere to shop and etc. But these Korans and the bodegas, they still are living in the community, running these stores,
Yes, ma'am.
taxing in the community.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, so-
And that's a big problem. In
Yes.
Cherry Hill doesn't have a food store, believe it or not.
They don't. They just got a bank.
That's right, just got a bank.
Right.
Just got a bank.
Yeah.
So in the Nehemiah plan, what we say is that the first thrust of our investment is to make sure that every neighborhood has the basics: food, shelter, clothing. So so our model for bringing in the food, because one of the reasons when I talk to the food leadership, the companies, and say how come you don't come into our neighborhoods? Why do you leave? You know why it is? And it's pretty straightforward. One, they're losing money because their costs to operate are high, right? They're losing money and they don't feel they have the support of the city. So what I do as mayor, my plan, Nehemiah plan says that I need to impact or change the risk equation for those people. And how we do that? We do it by when we bring back the stores back into neighborhoods. What we do is such that the people in the neighborhood become part owners of those stores. So if I bring in Safeway or Giant, whatever, we create this plan, and that's why a business-minded person needs to be mayor, right?
That's right.
Put together a plan where the people can be shareholders in that market, right? So what does that mean? It means that number one, the people in the neighborhood, they will benefit in the wealth creation. Number two, we know that when people own stuff, they take care of it. So if we can change the model of how we implement these things, then we will be in a better place as a city. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm glad you said that because my next question was that in the last 2-3 terms you had mayor corruption. So what would you do different to gain the trust of Baltimore citizens?
Okay, so the question is, so I'm clear, how would I earn the trust of the people
We have
of the...
prior mayoral,
I got you, okay.
corruption.
Yes, ma'am. So she said we've had in the last 4 mayors, we've had 2 who've been convicted of fraud.
Right.
We got the Mosbys dealing with their thing, and I know Nick Mosby. I think he's a good man, and I hope that they can work out that situation.
Right.
But it doesn't help the image of the city.
Exactly.
That
So
another
you
leader.
have to build the trust.
Yeah, you guys build trust.
Right.
So let me ask you, beloved. So how do you build trust? How do you build trust? You build trust because I can tell you anything. I can say, hey, I'm going to send you to the moon. I'm going to do this and do that, and you either believe me or you don't. Right? So how do you build trust? Trust, number one, trust requires that we take a chance, that we take a risk. Because I cannot show you that I'm trustworthy until you give me an opportunity to show you that I can be trustworthy. So that's the first thing. Second thing I would say to people when they ask me that question is, I would say, look at somebody's past performance to get an indication of what they're going to do in the future. So if I have been a good man in the past, if I have kept my word in the past, if I have delivered on what I said I'm going to deliver in the past, then my past and your past is a great indication of how I'm going to perform in the future. That's why we have what's called resumes.
That's right.
You ever interviewed for a job? They have no idea if you're going to be successful in that job or not. No idea. But what they can do, they can look at your resume. And they say, oh, this young lady, oh, she's done this, she's done this, she's been this. Okay, then there's a good probability that she'll be successful in the future. And therefore, ma'am, you have the job. What I'm asking you in this race for mayor is, look at my past, look at my performance, look at what I have done, look at the vision too, that's more of a risk, and then I'm asking you, take a chance. Take a chance on Bob Wallace. So you've taken a chance already on the establishment, on Brandon Scott and the other folks. You take a chance on them, and you see and you know what you got there. You don't know what you're going to get from me, that is true. So there's a leap of faith here that we have to go to, folks, where you say, okay, this guy seems okay, let me give him a chance. And what I say to you is this: if you give me a chance and I don't deliver, fire me. Fire my butt as mayor and get somebody else to do the job. But what we should never do, we should never accept mediocrity in our leadership. We should never accept they just throw leaders at us and say, take it and be happy. No, we're better than that. I saw a question here and then here, sir.
Yeah, before you went on to something else, you were talking about looking to your past.
Yes, ma'am.
To see how your future is going to be.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how do you feel about reform of convicts then, of criminals? If we're saying look into their past, if we look into their past, they're criminals. So how do you feel about them and reform and moving forward if that's what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. Because that's a great question.
Thank you.
Because I have so many nephews
Yeah, right.
who are in and who have been in the criminal justice system. And I know, because they're my nephews, and I know that they are, at heart, they're good men. And good women too, because they go through the system too. And they make some mistakes, and they pay the price. So my view on that, ma'am, is this, and because you're right. In the case of returning citizens, my view is this: if you have made a mistake, and you have paid your price by the time you spent whatever, then that mistake should not haunt you the rest of your life.
Right.
And so what I would do as mayor is to continue to work with the legislatures at the state level and the federal level to have better laws in place so that employers cannot take the pass of a returning citizen who has paid their price to society. So they made a mistake, they paid their price, and then they're trying to get a fresh start. How do we expect these men to go on and live their lives if the mistake they made follows them for the rest of their lives? It's impossible. Our recidivism rate, I gotta tell you all, it's 75% in the first 3 years. In the first 3 years, 75% of our returning citizens are back in the prison system. Because these brothers get out and nobody will hire them. They got these child care burdens that they take away their driver's license. It's draconian, it's crazy. So we cannot expect these men to turn their lives around and be successful men. So ma'am, I would want to change that. Because I believe that once they pay their price to society, then they should be able to live their lives and have a better chance to be successful. That's what I think. Did I answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Sir, please.
Moral discipline and ethical values have been pretty much shot.
What was it?
Moral discipline and ethical values has been, for the most part, shot.
Yes.
Not only in the corrupt mentality of policies and the political arena,
Yes, sir.
but across the lines on our streets.
Yes, sir.
That needs to be reinstituted.
I agree.
The biggest problem we have in regards to that is that the masses have been conditioned to be programmed to stay that way.
Yes, sir.
Now, in order for that shift to occur, there has to be a defining moment in order for people to recognize change is upon us.
Yes, sir.
What I need from you,
Uh-huh.
all right, because this is you and me,
Uh-huh.
what I need from you is to identify with the independent consciousness, to feed it into the community, to have them recognize that there is such a change that is upon us right now to where we can't help but change. In that change, we need to change the mindset of the people that are in the streets,
Yes, sir.
so they can recognize that there is hope.
Yes, sir.
Because right now there's no hope, and the apathy that's going on in our communities is just continually to demolish.
Agreed.
So we need housing,
Yes, sir.
and we need moral discipline fed into these people, because if you do the housing and they don't understand how to build,
Yes, sir.
how to live in the house, and
Yes,
they
sir.
just there to destroy it,
Yes, sir.
we're going to continue on a path of destruction
Yes,
that
sir.
we're not going to go anywhere.
I agree.
So what is your plan in regards to the mindset of the people to change that
Yes.
so that we can get a better place to live.
Man, that's right on money, brother. Right on money. Right on money. And I can look at that two ways. One, my personal journey, and the other one as a society, right? Because the Bible tells us to whom much is given, much is required. And as a man or woman thinketh in their heart, so are they. And so I look at my own personal life, and then I'm gonna give you the whole piece. Because that's why in my platform, brother, one of my platforms is empowering the faith-based community. Empowering the faith-based community. So I'm not talking about just Christians, I'm talking about Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, wherever your faith system is. I'm not getting into religion here. I'm talking about a spiritual dimension which allows us to leap out of our existing situation to a better one. And I'll give you an example. So in Cherry Hill, my family, I mentioned I had 5 boys in Cherry Hill. My mother was a janitor, recovering alcoholic. My father was a laborer. And we were in poverty. Like maybe many of you started that way. I don't know, right? But what did mom and daddy do? They gave us 3 things that made a difference for us. And I bet you your parents did also. Yep. They said, number one, have faith in God. I remember mama would be drunk, eyes bloodshot, smelling of liquor. And I remember mama, and we had no food. They turned off electricity, they couldn't pay the bill. Turned off the water bill, couldn't pay the water bill. So we had no water, no electricity, no food. And mama saying, the Lord will make a way. Mama, whole time out. Of course, I didn't tell mama to her face, but behind her back, and mama, what mama talking about? The Lord will make a way. Well, how's he gonna make a way? He don't care about us. But mama never gave up. She never gave up on God. And so is faith. Faith. Why is faith important? And the reason why the faith-based community is key, and my platform is made. Because one thing I've learned, that if you can change how a woman thinks or how a man thinks, you can change their behavior. You change their behavior, you can change their actions. You change their actions, you can change their outcomes. You change their outcomes, you can change their life. You change their life, you can change the city. You change the city, you will impact the state. You impact the state, you will impact this country and the world. Yeah. It starts, brother, where you said, it starts with the individual. Yeah. We are the cornerstone of our families, our communities, especially us men, brothers, especially us men. And that's a whole different chapter we can talk about. But men got it. Come on, sis.
So it's going to start with the children. It's going to start in the schools with the education.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
That's what that's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
As a mom that's doing virtual learning with my daughter right now, who's in the 7th grade. As a mom who has put children, 2 other daughters already through school, graduating in 14 and 16 and on to college, and now I still have this little girl that's new, this virtual learning thing. So I want to know, as mayor, going forward with the education system, what are we going to do about that part right there? Because they're talking about letting the children go back to school. I'm totally against that. I will completely virtually learn my child, homeschooler at home, if I have to, versus putting her in a situation where her immune system can be compromised.
How old is your child?
She's 12.
12, okay.
And she's in the 7th grade. And so I'm interested in hearing what your views on this coronavirus moving forward.
Yes.
I want to hear about current events, like what's going on today. Mm-hmm. The violence been going on in the city. The corruption been going on in the city. I'm from Washington, D.C. I've been here in Baltimore for 10 years now, and over 11 years now, and I've seen no change. I've seen nothing but corruption. I've seen a city divided. I've seen citizens that just don't give a damn. I've seen a city that is torn down and dirty. I've seen a lot, and I've heard the same statement, well, what we gotta do, we gotta come together, we gotta change it, we gotta da-da-da-da. What can you do moving forward as mayor to, make it happen? Not just talk about it, be about it. Let's see the change. And I think it starts in the school. I think it starts with the children. you know, because the older ones, they're set in their ways, and
Absolutely.
you know, they feel a certain way about things. But the children are young, they're learning, and the millennium kids are, you know, like we saw with the children back there on the computers, they're very, very smart.
They are.
Very smart.
They sure
So moving forward, you know, as mayor, you know, on education, on health and public safety, or excuse me, on health issues,
Sure.
coronavirus, where's your stance on that?
So let me come back to that. Let me sure I'll answer his question.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
now I'll come to your question there. So all I'm saying is, in terms of people changing their attitudes, is faith, hard work, and education. Those are if we get those three things right, we can change the city, right? Because here's why faith is important. It's back to your point, ma'am, is that if you don't believe that your future can be better than your present, then you have no hope. And what we have in the city is what you're seeing, man. We have people who have lost hope.
Right.
What you're seeing is a city of people who have lost hope. They have given up. They've given up. And so all I'm saying, man, to the question here is that if we don't change that mindset so that you know, gee, maybe there's hope for me. Maybe if I work hard, maybe I can turn my life around. Maybe if I get the right education, maybe I can make a decent living and take care of my family. That's why I'm saying those three things, sir, is how we begin to change that. And that's why the faith-based community is so critical to my platform. Now, ma'am, to your question about the education, because you are absolutely correct. If we don't fix the education system, what that is today is a pipeline. It's either a pipeline to goodness or it's a pipeline to disaster. Because if the kids do not stay in the system and get the skills they need to get the jobs that they desire, to earn the living that they want, then it's not going to work out. And that's what's happening in Baltimore City today. 85% of our kids are graduating, man, and they are not competitive. The reason I know, I'm on the Board of Regents. I see all the students that come out of the 24 school systems in our state, the public school systems, right? And Baltimore consistently, man, is at the bottom and requires the most remediation of any system in the state. I see the numbers, and you're right. And so what we need to do, my plan there is threefold, man, and it touches into, I think, what you're talking about. Number one, when I'm mayor, what's going to be different is I'm going to change the school board. I'm going to put the men and women who desire for education, but who have the power to make things happen.
Okay.
You cannot have a board of people who mean well, but who can't do nothing.
Okay.
So as a CEO who has a board, I know the power of a board. And so we're going to change the board. We're going to get men and women that are not only a passion for education, but who have power and relationships to make a call and help bring resources for our babies.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, we're going to provide, as mayor, we're going to provide wraparound services to, in essence, extend the school day. That means some time on the front in the mornings when the kids come in for meals and tutoring. And then on the back end of the school day for tutoring and mentoring in that capacity, right? Because what happens, man, unlike you, it sounds like you're a very studious parent and is on top of it. But there are many of our kids who come from families where they don't have the environment.
That's what I was going to say. A
Yes,
lot of that
ma'am.
stuff stems from home, from discipline.
It-
You don't
yes.
have the disciplinary in the
That's
homes
right.
no more.
That's right. That's
Back when I
right.
was
man.
growing up, I've been a community activist for over 20 years, so I did a lot of groundwork and footwork and beyond measures.
Yes, ma'am.
But my thing is that I always raise my kids with respect and discipline.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have lost that
We've
in
lost
the
that.
home because you got a lot of parents that's on drugs, alcoholics, and
Yes,
they're
ma'am.
young.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, so they're young grandmothers.
Yes,
So they
young
don't have
grandmothers.
time to teach these kids X, Y, Z. That's why they running elsewhere.
Yes,
Every
ma'am.
leader was a follower. So you have to start from somewhere.
Absolutely.
So you can't just get everything from school. You have to get some knowledge of your
Amen.
own.
Amen.
You
Amen.
can't go to school, like I was just telling my brother Randy. It's a lot of 12th graders that graduated and don't even know how to fill out an
Yes,
application.
ma'am.
But you cannot blame the school system because that's part of your job as
Yes,
well.
ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
people cannot keep blaming, pointing a finger, oh, you did this, you did this. What is you doing as a parent?
Yes, ma'am.
What is you doing as a parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Educate your children at home with manners. Teach them to say yes. That one yes in the job interview will have you up in top rank.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we have to have a leader in charge. When you take control and be in charge of your city, you got your 10.
I
You
totally
got
agree.
10.
Yes, ma'am.
So these kids don't have nothing to follow right now.
They do not.
Nothing.
They do
So
not.
that's why they acting a fool.
That's right. 'Cause they don't know any better.
Yeah, so they doing whatever they want to do
Yes,
because
ma'am.
everything is up in the wrong. Everything
Absolutely.
is all over the place.
And that's-
so we need structure.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am. And that's why I'm suggesting that so when the family unit is not conducive to a child learning and educating, then society has either two options, because that child will impact society. Either that child will grow up, not get the skills, go out to the streets, make these bad choices, become a resident of the incarceration system. Okay, or they will find their way getting the skills and the education that they need to get a good job. So when I tell my friends this, they say, well, Bob, isn't it the parents' responsibility to mentor and to educate and to train the children? And I say, yes, that is true. That is the parents'
Parents have to do their part.
responsibility.
Parents have to
Mom and
do their
daddy,
part.
your mom and dad. I come to you
Yeah.
a little bit. But here's the thing. But I tell my friends, guess what? What you say is true. But we as a society, we'll either pay now or we pay later. Let me see what I mean. So if a child does not get through the system, does not get the education, does not get the skills, turns to the streets, right? Makes a bad choice, gets incarcerated. You know what it costs the state each year to incarcerate every
Like
single person?
65 or 25.
Yeah, $40,000 and some change. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
$40,000 and some change to incarcerate every woman or man in the Maryland system.
Where they
So
could have sent them to college.
yeah, and here you go. So if you take part of that money at least, move it to the front end of the cycle, where we can give wraparound services to these kids and minimize the number of kids that leak out of the system and become a ward of the state, then maybe we as a city and society can do a better job. Go ahead, Ian.
Okay, I got a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am, I know you do. That Northwestern.
Question goes to what she was saying,
Yes.
is what if the parents don't know? Because that's what
Right.
I'm counting, a lot of parents
Right.
don't have.
Parents don't have it.
Moral discipline, know how to fill out an application. Okay, that's one question. My second question is, okay, I live in Pikesville.
That's the county. That's the
Yeah,
county.
well, I don't even have to come in the city unless I go to my sister's house who lives in Ashford, because I'm scared as hell.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming down here today, you better be glad I'm here because Michael, of course, isn't here and he wasn't driving. I was trying to decide, okay, do I drive and fear getting carjacked
Yes.
or a gunshot?
Are you serious?
Yeah, or do I take the metro and deal with the element on that?
Oh, wow.
So I went and took the metro and of course, with
Oh,
$3,000 of camera equipment, I'm like, okay, I'm still like taking a big
Yeah,
risk. So that's just a statement. Then my third thing is, I don't know if you addressed this or not, because I was on a work call, but what is the deal with these open-air drug markets and I'll just say Penn North and Walton Junction as examples, and the cops are sitting right there doing nothing. So what is, you did address that? Okay, all
So
right.
can I explain? We did address it, but maybe I can give you another dimension. So Andy, here's the deal. And this is not popular, but this is what it is. So the state's attorney, Ms. Mosley, has made a decision that she is not going to prosecute certain drug-related crimes, like possession to certain levels. So what happens is the officers are not arresting because she has decided she's not going to prosecute these young people. I was in Cherry Hill, the same thing, India. I was in Cherry Hill doing a shoot, right in Cherry Hill Shopping Center. Broad daylight. These young fellas out there, man, selling, buying drugs. The officer's sitting right there in the car, right in the shopping center, parking lot. He sees what I see, nothing. Because we have to have better coordination in here between the mayor and the commissioner and the state's attorney. Because if I'm an officer and I arrest you for a drug open market situation, but you're out on the street the next day, what have we accomplished? So we got to get this thing coordinated, and right now it's not. It's not. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what my understanding is, as far as her prosecuting drug cases, is that all drugs or was that just marijuana? As far as her prosecuting
Right.
drug offenses,
She
was
added
it
the
marijuana offenses or was it all drug offenses?
So that's a great question, ma'am. And I think it is low-level marijuana offenses. But see, here's the problem. Why is it so complicated? Because these drug boys, right, they may be dealing with the marijuana piece, but right with that is the other drugs.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's the other drugs.
Exactly.
So they don't segregate, you know, the drugs. It's all in there. And so I would rather, this is me, I would rather we have a little more teeth into what we can go after that makes sense than not. And listen, I'm not interested in criminalizing our people. I'm an African American man. I have been on the other side of police. I get it. But at the same time, ladies, we cannot have an environment where people are afraid to come into the city.
Yeah.
Where you're afraid to send your kids to school. We can't operate that way, folks. If we do, we're dead. As a city, we become a shell of a city.
And the crazy part is I have a couple lieutenant officers as friends.
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
asked them, like, why do y'all allow these guys to stand outside? Y'all don't, oh, the store don't call and complain. So our boss told them we don't do nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
Unless the store call. I said, what you mean you got signs standing?
No
You got
loitering.
signs right there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Right there.
Yes, ma'am. See, the officers, and I know a lot of
We
officers.
gotta go
also.
back to the police board right there.
Yeah,
Because it
yes,
got to
ma'am.
stem from there. Enough is enough. They used to crooked routine.
Yeah.
Enough. And then you got most of these bodegas that can bring running drugs out of the store.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's so true.
Safe zone.
And again, so all I'm saying, ma'am, and to make this effective, is that the whole system has to work together. Because if I'm an officer and I'm arresting you for loitering or low-level drug crime, but the state's attorney says I'm not going to prosecute you, then you're back on the street.
Yeah.
What have I done? Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
So this whole coordination, man, we got to figure this out.
I don't agree with that. What have I done? Nothing has changed.
Go ahead.
I don't agree with that part because what have you done? You've done your job.
Mhm.
You've done what you signed up for. It's the law. And if the law says no loitering, if the law
Right.
says no selling
No
drugs,
loitering, no
then
standing
what have
up,
you
you gotta
done?
go.
You've done your
Right.
part. You've done
Right.
your job. So even
Right.
if they're released the next day or whatever, you still did your job. So we all have to start to take accountability for ourselves
If they
and
know
what
they
we
want-
do.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point. But I want you to put yourself in the shoes of an officer.
Mm-hmm.
So every
I've
time,
dated a few.
every time, no. So every time, so this big no loitering sign. I got 20 guys sitting in the corner because I've seen some Cherry Hill and East Baltimore, right? Big sign, no loitering. 20 young African American guys standing in the corner. I'm an officer. I go up to arrest. First of all, when I do that, when I go to arrest, I'm putting myself and those people at risk because a lot of times these young fellas resist. So you get off of me, right? So the situation can escalate. So now you have it where you're trying to arrest somebody, it escalates, it could go bad, maybe it doesn't go bad, but it could. So you lock the person up, they put him in the system, the very next day, that young man's back on the corner. And you're back there as an officer, you just risk your life to lock him up, you just risk being sued because you didn't do it correctly. My God, I'm gonna tell you it's me, man, make this speak for you. If it was me, if I'm an officer and I'm working in that environment, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna think twice before I go and take the risk to arrest somebody for a loitering charge, right? That I know he's not even gonna, that the system is not even gonna process. That's me. Now maybe you're different, but that's me. So I'm just saying, folks, it's unfair to me to force these men and women of law enforcement to have to operate in that environment, put their life at risk, and not get some help, not get some coordination here. And what we have in the city now is it's not coordinated. It's not coordinated.
So I like what somebody said back
You go
here,
up the
safe
street, they're not
zone.
allowing that. You go up the street, they're not allowing it.
Safe zone, that's what I was about to say.
Yes,
Somebody
ma'am.
said something about a safe zone, so maybe we should start to create more safe zones with these owners of these
I like that.
bodegas and stuff
loitering
like
zone.
that.
I like that.
And
No loitering zone.
everybody start to be their own safe zone. You cannot
That's a
litter,
good point,
you
and I
cannot
like
do
that idea. But as you said, though, sister.
No loitering zone. You
Well-
get found, you get 3 more occurrences, 3 loitering occurrences.
Okay.
It's
There
get a
are
fine.
there are no loitering signs, as you said,
Yeah.
and the guys are still
They still-
violating.
They hang in the store and sell drugs.
Yes,
you know this
ma'am.
stuff.
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
what I'm saying?
Right.
But
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
just saying that they got this stuff. These
Now,
kids
here's the
can't
question
go
for you,
to school.
ladies.
Yeah.
So
Mine ain't going.
let me be devil's advocate here for a second.
All right.
You know Roland Park. You know Guilford. You know Charles Village.
Mm-hmm.
Do you define the situation in those neighborhoods.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, hold on. No, there's no. So here's the question, ladies. Why? Why?
Because they have, most of them have their own community police.
Okay, well, some of them don't. Like Bull Park doesn't. But you're right, ma'am. There's some places that do have private police. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But the ones that don't.
Our young people that are doing these crimes and stuff in our community, for some reason they won't cross, like it's an invisible line.
That's exactly right. Now, why is that? Let's talk about this. Because this
So
is.
what now? What you say?
She was saying some of the bad players, the guys who make bad choices. There are certain neighborhoods they won't take that bad behavior into.
Because white people live there.
Yeah, it's an invisible line.
So it's the invisible line. So, but let's peel the onion a little bit more. So why they not do it in the neighborhoods? Okay, it is predominantly white. That is true. Okay, but what else? Peel the onion back a little bit. What else? I think
Because a lot of people are homeowners and they want to take care of their community, and that's what they did.
Because the people in the neighborhood have said we will not tolerate
Right, it's not tolerated.
this
Right.
behavior.
Right.
See, I'm saying to us African American folks, I'm saying we have to be the same way. We have to say, no, you cannot do this in our neighborhood. And the people have to say, no, no. Like when your mom and daddy raised y'all, I know my mom and daddy in Cherry Hill, there was certain behavior that the people, the parents did not tolerate.
Right.
You already know.
All right, that's right.
Our neighborhoods used to be safe back
Yes,
then.
ma'am, they were safe.
Because
Yes,
the men manned up and they didn't
Yes,
allow
ma'am.
anybody to come in their
Yes,
neighborhood
ma'am.
that did not live there, come
Yes,
there to
ma'am.
cause any havoc.
Yes, ma'am. That's
These
exactly-
young men and these men today, they are weak.
Yes, ma'am.
Period.
We got a problem.
Yep.
So
So
we-
it's like the women are dominating now.
Yes, ma'am.
To the
Unfortunately.
core. Whereas though we are
Yes,
the
ma'am.
breadwinners in a home now, so
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
emasculating the man now. So we need
Yes,
a
ma'am.
man in charge that's gonna bring that power back.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
gonna bring that,
Yes, ma'am. I follow. It's
I'm the
deep.
man.
Yes, ma'am. It's
Hey,
deep.
number
It's
10.
deep.
We
But
know
you're right.
we know you have a fight against you, a long road.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
gonna be a hard road because
Yes, it is.
it's digging the city out the gutter.
It is.
Pretty much.
Here's what I've learned. It is, ma'am. It is. And I don't care who becomes mayor, folks. Here's the deal. Whoever becomes mayor, I think it'll be me, but let's say it's whomever. The people of the city have got to come up beside him or her and help them. Because this problem is so big. This problem is so deep. It is so entrenched. It's going to take a village to pull this thing out.
Absolutely.
But I'll tell you what I do believe. I do believe that the vision I have and the plan that I have to help dig us out of this, I think is the best plan out of the other two, my two opponents. I really believe that. But it's going to take a village, no question about that, because the issues are so deep and entrenched. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add, my name is King Teasdale. What I wanted to add, someone had mentioned something, I don't know if it was answered, in regards to the parents not knowing.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
There's two levels of that I
Yes,
see as necessary.
Yes, sir.
With the education system, especially with you expanding
Right.
the opportunity to give them a teaching platform.
Yes, sir.
We're at a place now, twofold, because somebody mentioned how the women are now standing in the place of the men.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Twofold. One, we're at a place now recognizing that the students now have to teach the parents. Okay? And I'm sure you're kind of familiar with that from your background,
Yes.
because once a parent gets out of alignment,
Yes, sir.
the need of that parent to come into alignment
Yes.
is a energy
Yes, sir.
that comes from the positive understanding of knowing it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's got to come from the heart.
Yes, sir.
And that heart relationship,
Yes, sir.
which is the relationship of everything,
Mm-hmm.
comes from that child to that parent.
Yes, sir.
As well as the females or the women who recognize that the men are out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of the competition or the embarrassment of the man not being in place,
Yes, sir.
complement the consciousness that is there to transform, so that we can bring them back into alignment as well.
Yes, sir.
Because women, I clearly believe you all understand you get a man to a place to where he's gonna do what you say just because you say he's gonna do it.
That's right.
Because if he ain't gonna do it and you say he's gonna do it, he's gonna feel as if you don't care. But when you tell him to do it, well, he's gonna do it because there's a power that the vibration of the creative energy within transforms a man.
I totally agree with that, brother. I believe that a man cannot be the best that he can be unless he has the right woman beside him.
That's
I
right.
believe it. I look at every great man I've ever studied.
A woman makes a man.
Yes, she does. Yes, she does.
We
So-
were created for man.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
It's
ma'am.
in the Bible.
And-
Read it.
And like brother said, though, somewhere along the way,
They gotta be
too
taught.
many of us men lost our way, and so we left with the sisters holding the bag, and I get that. One of the ways that I hope to address what you're talking about, brother, is I didn't talk about this part of the Nehemiah plan, is to convert. Well, first of all, increase the number of recreation centers in Baltimore City, but not only to increase them, but to convert them to community technology centers. Here's why I say it's important. Because the centers now not only are recreation from a physical standpoint, but they also provide intellectual support, right? And innovation support. Because you look at our neighborhood, our young people, they got a lot of great ideas. They're brilliant.
Yes.
I mean, I talk to them and say, wow. But what they don't have is the conduit to help them to
They don't have the
nurture.
resources.
They don't have the resources.
They shut down all
Don't have
the
the resources.
resource centers in all the communities.
all-
They are going to
that's
take
right,
it
exactly right,
down.
sister.
They're trying to dumb us down when we had to take
Right.
all of that back. And
Absolutely.
You can't keep
Absolutely
you
correct.
done do it.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
That's
Do
what
it.
I said.
I was on the board at Gilman School. You know, you guys know Gilman School?
Gilmore.
Gilman.
Gilman.
Gilman. It's
Gilman.
it's a private school.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's a private
okay.
school. One of the oldest ones in the city, probably the nation,
Okay,
right?
okay.
I was on the board. I was on the
Right
board.
up the street on-
I was trustee, right?
Okay.
So I got a chance to look at the numbers, how much they spend per pupil, and how the class sizes are really small. And as I saw the resources that the school was giving these boys, it's all boys, I said, my God, no wonder they're so successful. Because they got all these resources to allow their gifts and their skills to flourish. And these kids go on and they do marvelous things.
Yes.
And then I said, walk away. Now, every child in Cherry Hill or East Baltimore or West Baltimore has the same potential. Got the same potential. What they don't have is the resources and the conduit to let them flow. That's why my concept for converting recreation centers into community technology centers will hopefully provide a conduit where our young babies can have a chance to take their God-given gift and
And
do
do their home
something.
economics better.
Yes, ma'am. Here and here. Yes, ma'am. Please.
I'd like to thank you for your leadership. I'm from Detroit. I'm new into the Baltimore region from last year. And I just have to share, I wish that I was able to vote, but I'm not this time around. But I think that if for you all who are residents, Mr. Wallace is the best choice for you. Because not only does he understand the nature, the fiber, and the essence of the community, but he understands the importance of business and the political wherewithal. Because I think that what has been missing in Baltimore so long, the understanding of business. It's a business of governance. And when you look at everyone that you have elected over the last terms, they don't understand business. And I'm not just saying that because we hail from the state university, but I'm saying it because his experiences have shown his successes. And you can't make a machine work without understanding its parts. And the governance here, politics is a business. Speak to that, please. The importance of understanding business.
Yes,
You are a businessman.
Absolutely.
You understand the essence of a community,
Yes,
which
ma'am.
you have been raised up within. And
Absolutely.
now, understanding the role of mayor, what that looks like. Because a lot of times we are remiss and we don't understand what the role of that leadership does.
Amen.
So if you don't read the charter, you don't understand what it says that the mayor is supposed to do, then you'll say, well, he's supposed to be out on the street holding hands and kissing babies. That's not what the mayor's supposed to do.
Amen.
Or you have to understand the
Amen.
legislative role of what the city council is.
Yes, ma'am.
So if
Right.
you could speak on that briefly,
Yes,
just
ma'am.
so that people are clear in your conversations and when they take this out to other individuals, what the mayor is supposed to do, and that you have the skill set to be able to ensure that the community can be successful under your leadership?
Yes, ma'am. Very good question.
Bob, before you mention that, I know we're getting ready to start another meeting also, but something I wanted to share. The power of words. You said recreation center, right? But listen to what that sounds like. And when we see what's going on in the community, that's what's happened. We've wrecked creation. So when we look at that word says recreation. And that's a change of mindset right there.
It is. That was not good. And even converting it to community technology. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir. So the question here, so the question about business and government, and sister, you are absolutely correct. Our leadership in the past has no idea.
About business.
None at all. Because they're not business people, and they never have been. They never had to make payroll. They never had to do to raise capital. They never had to deal with building alliances and partnerships. They just don't know. And so, running government, and me as your mayor, it is a business. Look at it from this perspective. Baltimore is a $3.5 billion corporation. That means every year, the city of Baltimore spends about $3.5 billion. That's the business. I am your servant. You are my shareholders. In other words, my job as mayor is to take that $3.5 billion every year and use it in such a way that it enhances the quality of your life. That it enhances the quality of your life. Because you are the shareholders of this corporation.
So you're actually doing a financial audit once you become mayor?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Put that out.
That's why I'm doing that audit. That's why I'm doing that audit.
That's
My
why you're
first
doing that
100 days
audit.
in
And I loved
office.
it. When you said that, you want me.
Yes.
You want me. I'm like, oh yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
You on top of the game.
Yes, ma'am. Because I can almost assure you that the money we do have,
You getting it on the books.
it's a better way. That money not being used the way that we think it is or that it should be. I can almost assure you.
Oh, absolutely.
But we're going to do the audit for every agency, and then I'm going to give you a report talking about trusting and accountability. I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Shareholder, because you are my boss. I work for y'all as mayor. So I'm going to hold on, brother. Then I'm going to show you what it is. I'm going to say, folks, this is where I'm starting with as your mayor. I want you to see this, so we all started from the same page. And then we'll go from there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, one of the first things you can do is that money that they get from the speed cameras.
Yes, sir.
Never accounted for.
My Lord.
$36 million went into that and never accounted for.
Yes, sir. I mean, look at
While taxes still high, they got that kind of money.
Exactly.
Look at the water bills.
I know.
Look at the water bills. So we have as a city. I mean, let this sink in. This is mind-boggling for me. Listen to this.
Right.
As a city, we have failed to even invoice people who owe us tens of millions of dollars. Because we didn't invoice. What kind of business would be in business?
Exactly.
If you can't even invoice for services you've delivered, what kind of city are we?
We used to pay, what, $30 every 6 months?
Yes, ma'am.
My water bill, $100 a
It's
month.
out of control. Yes, ma'am.
A month.
Out of control. Out of
A
control.
month.
But not only that, not only are the water sewer bills, crazy, but we as a city have failed to invoice the big boys and big girls.
Even
Stay on my ass about my bills.
you got this can't in line with nobody else can
Yes,
get in,
ma'am.
besides third party.
So my question is, to the point that you made, what kind of business could survive when you don't even invoice people who owe you money? You're already cash strapped, and you cannot even invoice people who owe you money. Folks, there's something wrong in Kansas here. There's something wrong. And so all I'm asking the voters is, look, if we're going to fix this, we need a business-minded person that knows about execution of strategy, that knows about technology, that knows how to get stuff done and solve problems. That's what the mayor has to do. I told Brandon Scott, now shut up. I told Brandon Scott, there's people, you know what, Brandon has this idea of putting in the city administrator. Y'all heard that? What an idiotic idea. So you want to add a $300,000 job to already bloated overhead, right? To run the city, Bring in one of the O'Malley people to do it properly.
That's what it is.
Okay?
Right.
Because you want to be, and I call this, forgive me if it offends anybody, I say, you know what, sir, you cannot be a pretty boy mayor. You cannot be a pretty boy mayor. This is not a pretty boy job. Being mayor requires a man or woman to roll up their sleeves. It's not pretty. And you gotta get down in the trenches, and you gotta throw some blows and take some blows, and you gotta piss some people off.
That's right.
I got one more question.
Yes,
This is my
ma'am.
final question for you. and
Yes,
this is
ma'am.
one of my serious questions.
Yes,
That's it.
ma'am.
I'm actually the president of Baltimore's Hip Hop for the Homeless. I've been doing that for about 10 years now.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do you plan to do with the homeless division?
Yes, ma'am. We have about, according to our research, we have about 3,000 people in our city who are homeless. Understand, the homelessness is a process. What I mean by that is, you've got people who are pre-homeless. That means they are on the edge. Cause mom and daddy, when we were in Cherry Hill and things got really tough, mom and daddy, we were pre-homeless. We were on the edge, right? We're tinkering. Then you got the homeless. Those who have no home, no place to go to. Then you got the post-homeless, which means that they're not homeless, but
they on the urge, especially right now.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
So a
Yes,
lot of
ma'am.
people
Yes,
on the urge
ma'am.
of getting put out.
They on the edge.
40,000 tenants.
Yes, ma'am.
On the urge of getting put out.
Yes, ma'am. And you got a system. That's right.
Right.
So you got this homeless process, right? Let me tell you my approach. My approach to homelessness is home first. What that means is that when I'm there, I'm looking at how can we put in a system that will allow the homeless people to have a home. So maybe what we do, we take one of the 26 vacant schools in Baltimore City, and we build that out to make it a place for the homeless to live. Transition home, right? Because it's easier to help the homeless if they have a steady home that they can go to. That way I can bring wraparound services, because many of them face like mental illness and addiction, you know what I mean? So I get it. But to get them out of that, we got to give them these wraparound services, but it's easier to do that if they have a place that's their place, right? So my idea, take one of the schools, let's get private sector to invest the money, to renovate it, and make it a temporary home for those involved, the 3,000 or so people, right? And provide wraparound services to them while they're in their facility, and hopefully help them transition out.
Yeah, we had a 10-year plan that's now in year 15, and they still haven't helped hardly any of the homeless.
Was the homeless plan? My Lord.
Well, it's interesting to mention that. The Souls of Life Society is the founder. I'm the founder of the vessel. That's what we're looking at doing.
I see.
And we call that housing for moral discipline,
I like that.
ethical values.
I like that. Yes, sir.
Right? And so as you teach them what they need to learn, how to live, then you set up the programs that are necessary so that they can move into an apartment.
Yes, sir.
Once they move into an apartment, you still stay connected to them.
Exactly right.
So now you can teach them how to live in a house.
Yes, sir.
And maintain the house.
Yes, sir.
And then move them there so
Yes.
they can learn also how to maintain
That's exactly
their
right.
life and become a business person.
You bet it is. That's right. And that's why the home first approach is my approach. Yes, sir.
I have one question.
Please.
So you established yourself as a businessman, and really that's kind of the core of it, that you're not a career politician. Now, this is remarkably similar to the campaign that Donald Trump ran.
Yes, sir.
That he is not a career politician.
Yes, sir.
However, the problem is, of course, no career politicians mean they don't care what happens when they leave office. I got no skin in the game. So, how are you going to ensure that the social contract that you establish when you are elected, that you abide by that? No one else. That you keep your hands clean. That's my question.
Sir, what's your name?
Ayub Hanif.
Okay, and what do you do, sir?
I'm a nurse and businessman.
You're a nurse?
And a business.
Are you a good nurse?
Oh yeah.
Are you an excellent nurse? Okay. Do you know any bad nurses?
Most definitely.
Okay. And does that bad nurse mean that the good nurses are not good nurses?
Nope.
Okay. Same way with business people. Donald Trump is a corrupt, and he's a bad business person. Okay, well, let me give you some context. Let me give you context here, because I hear it all the time. I hear it with Donald Trump's a businessman, and look at him, and I say, yep, he's a mess. That man is unqualified. He's morally corrupt. No question about it. Does that mean that Bob Wallace, who's a businessman, is morally corrupt? No, it doesn't. No more than if it's a bad nurse makes you a good nurse, make you a bad nurse, right? So here's what the reality is, sir, right? Is that I can't promise or guarantee you anything except this. I will promise you that I will do my best and that I will keep my word. Because the reality is, at some point, voters, you're going to have to take the leap of faith. You're going to have to say, I got Shannon Wright, I got Brandon Scott, and I got Bob Wallace. And I got to make a decision as a voter. I got to decide which of these people do I think is the best choice for us as a city to move forward. You've seen what Brandon Scott's going to give you, because he's had 10 years to show you. Dad used to always say, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. Believe them. Bob Wallace, you don't know, sir. I'm new. You don't know me. That's true. So all I'm saying, sir, all I'm saying is, I can't promise you, I can't, all I can tell you is that I'll do my best. I won't lie to you, right? And I'm going to do the best that I can do to be your mayor and turn the city around. Ready?
I would say you're not new. You're older than me. So you do have a track record.
I do, man.
Your track record is in business.
It's not in politics, that's all.
Yeah, your track record is in business.
It's in business.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that, I don't know Donald Trump. I don't know Joe Biden. But I know I got a choice. I know I'm going to choose Joe Biden over Donald Trump, just based upon their track record. Right? So I'm saying that the fact that people say, I don't know Bob Wallace.
Right.
Do you know Brandon Scott?
Right.
And if you know Brandon Scott, and you're satisfied with Brandon Scott, that means you're satisfied with the conditions that's been going on for the last 50, 60 years.
Right.
So I'm just saying that if you don't know Bob Wallace, and you think you gotta take a leap of faith, take a leap of faith with somebody and check. Do your research. Check their track record out. I'm reading the book right now, man. I'm getting a lot of stuff. I'm getting right back to you from the book. A lot of this stuff I'm getting right back to you from the book.
No, sure, yeah. But brother, that's a good question. It's like, I get it a lot. People say, well, you're not a politician, and we don't have, yeah, I'm not. Go ahead, brother. Go ahead. This is important.
Last question.
You didn't really answer it though.
Okay, tell me.
So,
Let me try it again.
so my question is, I know who Trump is. I don't care who Brandon is in this one.
Right.
I'm trying to find out about Bob.
Right.
I'm trying to find out what holds Bob's promise to be true.
What?
What holds your promise to be true, except for the fact that it's a promise?
Well,
I'm trying to
that's-
find out what's
that's
still
what
on there,
That's
But
what
isn't that
everybody.
true for everybody, sir?
That's true.
So like Vinny said, if I were you, what I would do is this. Because your question is a good question. But the answer is, you research Bob Wallace, you see what he's done in the past. That can't change, that's given, right? Look at what he's done in the past, right? And all I'm saying, sir, is when you pivot and look forward, it's going to be a leap of faith. Where you say, okay, he's done this, he says he can do this, I've got to either believe him or not. You got to believe me or not? Because I can't give you, I can't go into the future and show you that's what's going to happen. It is a leap of faith. When you vote for president, for Biden and Harris, right? You really don't know what you're going to get from Biden and Harris. They have a good plan. They mean well. But you and I won't know until they get in office.
That's right.
And then we see what they do, and we insert his piece and hold them accountable. So when I